Hey gang, this is the third story we're doing here at St. Louis number 3 in New Orleans. And it's a location of the cemetery where we have the step graves. It's a little different look here. Now what's the story we're talking about today? Well, it's about a famous serial murderer that was here in New Orleans back in the day. They called him the Axeman. We're going to tell the story and we're going to end up at the vault of the first two victims, a husband and wife, the Maggio family. So let's take a walk. And I will tell you the story. So yeah, these are step graves. We've talked about that also 2 years ago when I was here. Again, everything's got to be pretty much above ground with the water table. So yeah, let's talk about it. There was a note received by police, and it was a scary note. It was 1919, and there was a note. It was received by a newspaper. And among other things, the note said, "They've never seen me before. I am invisible. I'm not a human. I am a spirit. They will never catch me. I am the Axeman." Was it a hoax, or was it from a real person? Or the real person who would break into homes at night and bludgeon people to death in their beds with an axe? Yes, this is what happened, and it happened many times. The horror started on May 23rd, 1918. Someone broke into the house of Joseph and Catherine Maggio. They were of Italian descent, and they were grocers here. The killer found an axe in the garden, went into the bedroom, and hacked both of them pretty much to death. Joseph must have been attacked first because his body was still in the bed. Catherine was on the floor. The thinking was maybe she had put up a struggle after Joseph was being attacked. Now, the Maggios had no children, yet there was a younger brother of Joseph, Andrew. He was living with them, sleeping in the next room. He didn't wake up. He didn't hear a thing, amazingly. When he did get up at 5 a.m., he heard moans. They were barely still alive. He was banging on the wall, but there was no answer. Didn't know what to do, so he went down the street and he got his brother named Jake. And the brothers, they went to get another brother whose name was Salvatore, and then they all went back together. They didn't know what to expect. They were very nervous. Well, they made their way inside, and there, of course, they were met with a ghastly scene. The floors and the bed were covered in blood. But Joseph was not actually dead. They brought the ambulance. They got him to the hospital, but unfortunately, he did die. Now, of course, the police became involved. This looked just like another murder. No big deal, I mean, compared to what this would be. They found footprints. Looked like the killer had hopped the fence in the back, and he had pried the door open with a screwdriver. The jewelry was left behind. There was a safe. The safe was open, but there was really not much money in the safe because Joseph had made a deposit. So robbery didn't seem to be the motive. So then the attention shifted to the brothers. As it turned out, one of the brothers was arrested, but the case would quickly fall apart. They found a screwdriver in the backyard, and that would really help undo the case because it wasn't connected to the family. And it turned out that was, in fact, the main murder weapon. Well, it wouldn't stop. There was another attack that occurred on June 27th, 1918. And the family were also Italian shopkeepers, grocers. Now, there was some similarity between these cases. Again, it happened in the night, it happened in the bedroom. An axe was used, same access from the back. But in this case, it would take a little bit of an odd turn because there would unfold a conspiracy because the woman in the bed was a mistress. And she survived, well, for a while. And of course, the news, they were coming up with wild theories about them and her, and that the man may have been a spy, and this and that and the other, and she was probably delirious, and she was going with it. She actually thought that he did it to her. The attacks would continue on August 5th of 1918. There was a woman named Anna Schneider. She was attacked in her room. Same way. Anna was 8 months pregnant. Luckily, her husband, Ed, came home from work at midnight, found her, got her to the hospital. Her skull was split open. She had lost a lot of teeth. She was in bad shape, but she would survive. She would deliver the baby. But sadly, she could not remember. She could not remember anything. They could not get any information out of her. It was only 5 more days when there was another strike, August 10th. A man named Joseph Romero, an elderly man who was living with his 2 nieces. Of course, the girls woke up to the commotion. They saw he had been attacked. Head split open, ambulance came, and he died a couple of days later. Same exact MO. Now the panic was really setting in. There was no way to stop it. The word was getting out, the papers had picked it up. There was a serial killer on the loose. Men were staying awake all night to guard their families. And of course, you'd have people who, the losers, and this still happens today. The pranksters, people would come and they would put an axe, get a bloody axe, and then they would put it in your backyard and, knock on the door, a screwdriver, and that's how people are. And then it would just continue. But it would be an 8-month respite first. And this time, it wouldn't happen in New Orleans here. It happened across the Mississippi. It was in another town. It was March 10th, 1919. And this time, he attacked an entire family. It was Charles and Rosie Cortimilia and 2-year-old daughter Mary, and this would be the worst. This would be the worst of them all, because they would all be attacked savagely. Now the parents would survive, but the worst being the little girl would die. Her back of her head was split open with the axe. There was a conspiracy with this family, with another family of rival grocers, 2 men. They would be arrested. There would be a trial, all circumstantial. They're probably innocent, but the father got life and the son was sentenced to death. Everybody was just in a panic. And the police there were trying to disconnect it from the case, all the cases that were going on in New Orleans. So the next thing that happened was, all of a sudden, the Picayune Times received a letter. They received a letter from the alleged killer, or it could have been a hoax, and it went into all of these verses, da 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 da, all the same kind of scare stuff, but very eloquently written. And it had a really curious ending, because at the ending it basically said, on this Tuesday night, which was following in several days, if you aren't playing jazz music, I'm going to kill you. You need to jazz it up, New Orleans, or everywhere. And that night came. And I think it was 12:15 p.m. He gave a time. And the city was booming. I mean, people hired bands. They were playing pianos. They were playing the Victrolas or the phonographs. And nobody was killed. So, mysterious, huh? Nobody was killed. His letter said something like, if you oblige, I'm going to quit. I'm going to go back to my lair in hell. And I'm paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing what he said. There would be some additional people to die, but they weren't sure if it was connected. But there was, or one, I should say one guy. And there were some scares and hoaxes and things, but the killer was never caught. He was never caught. And here we are at the Maggio family crypt. And at the very top you see Joseph and Catherine Maggio. And you see 1918. And then names under it and a picture. I won't zoom in on that out of respect. Joseph Maggio Sr. passing in 2012. So, a spooky story from New Orleans. It's a pretty famous story here in New Orleans. Pretty well known. So, more to come. Stay with me. Rest in peace, the Maggio family, and the other families that were killed. Rest in peace.